if they want this Fernando Mendoza kid, at this point, they might have to trade up. And I would rather not touch those other first round picks if you don't have to. That's what differentiates our future from everybody else's.
The New York Jets are coming off a 27-24 victory over the Atlanta Falcons, getting their third win of the season. They are 3-9 on the season for a record. We're here to talk about this victory over the Atlanta Falcons on Gangs All Here. I'm Ryan Sampson. That's our Jets beat writer, Brian Costello. And that's my guy, Frankie Vitoriti from U Stadium. Fellas, before we get to anything about the discussion here, I want to start off Mr. Kaz. How are you today, sir?
I'm good, Ryan. How are you doing?
I'm hanging in there. It's always nice to have a victory Monday. They come few and far between for this Jets team lately. I'll go to Frankie as well. How you feeling today, sir?
Feeling good, man. I'm feeling good. I like that the sports discourse around the Jets now is kind of shifting a little bit from these sort of like meaningless season games and us thinking about the future of this team in the offseason, which I think is more important. So I'm enjoying that part of the last 24 hours.
Well, look, I think that's the big part of this discussion, right? Besides the fact that the Jets won the football game, it is a lot of Jets fans and media are talking about, was yesterday's win a good thing for the Jets this season? And I'll ask that to Kaz to start off. You know, the discourse right now is tanking versus winning games here. I am on the side of winning these games actually are important for the culture that we talk about a lot here on this podcast. What are your thoughts on it?
Yeah, I think I've said this a million times. I think winning games is important, and especially for a first-year coach, trying to establish this program. And, I don't think the Jets are going to end up picking 15th here or anything like that. I think they're going to be in the top 10. And with the ammunition they have, they can move up if they needed to move up. I also don't think there's an Andrew Luck in this draft that you're like, oh man, we really need the number one pick to get this guy. So to me, I think a few wins down the stretch will help in the long run.
Well, I think, Kaz, while you're on that spectrum, and I agree with you, I think our friend here, Frankie, feels a little bit different. So how you feeling, Frankie, the fact that the Jets get their third win of the season, now dropped to 7th, according to NFL Draft Tankathon, in the standings?
Listen, if yesterday's game was a pretty win or a win that I can look at and feel confident in this team moving forward in terms of being able to replicate that sort of win, I mean, that win was ugly yesterday. Even on that last drive, Kirk Cousins threw some dots on that last drive. They couldn't catch the ball. Mooney, alligator armed a ball there at the end. The backup tight end dropped the ball. So it's like that game yesterday was almost like who was willing to just give it up, who was willing to not win the game, basically is what it came down to me. So it's just, I think the Jets, they have looked at this quarterback class, and I think they have put their have put their focus in on Fernando Mendoza. And at this point, winning a game like yesterday, which to me wasn't a pretty win, again, they fumbled Atlanta. We got some fortunate things that went our way. And that's a part of having a good football team. So I'm not taking necessarily that away from them. But if they want this Fernando Mendoza kid, at this point, they might have to trade up. And I would rather not touch those other first round picks if you don't have to. That's what differentiates our future from everybody else's. We have 5 first round picks. Nobody else has 4. 3 teams have 3. That's where you can start building something that looks different than the other 31 teams that can separate you. Now, if you want Mendoza, you might have to give up another first, maybe the Colts pick in 26 or one of those 27 picks. So listen, if I liked the win, if we, beat them down and beat them 40-7, and it was like a very decisive victory in our favor, I'd feel more excited, I guess, about Aaron Glenn and this Jets team. But that win stunk yesterday. That wasn't an impressive win. Isaiah Williams had to have another big return. I know that's part of a football team, but are these guys going to be here in a few years? Is this going to be the same roster? Just seems like we're just going to have to give up more draft capital to move up, and I don't know.
Kaz, your thoughts?
Not to go on a rant there, but
You're convinced they've zeroed in on Fernando Mendoza.
well, I'm just thinking that. Oh, all right. I'm just thinking that from they're showing up to all of his games. Apparently, a lot of scouts are there, and 2, he reminds me a lot of exactly what Tanner Engstrand had with Jared Goff, and I think
You're guessing now,
I'm
the head
guessing. I'm
coach
guessing. Yeah,
hasn't
yeah.
even the head coach probably hasn't even watched him yet, right? Like the head coach is busy with the season. I doubt maybe he's flipped the game on a Saturday if he's hanging out, but I doubt the head coach has actually dug in yet and watched tape like to evaluate the prospects. And in all honesty, like, this is the Aaron Glenn show. They're not picking a quarterback that Aaron Glenn doesn't sign off on, or
Yeah.
even more than that. Like, this is the guy I want. So I think that's kind of down the road of who they're gonna pick, and none of these guys have really kind of separated themselves. If you're talking about Ty Simpson or Fernando Mendoza or Dante Moore. So I think that decision's a ways off. I don't think they're there yet. And like, again, there's a million examples of guys who weren't number one taken that have been the better quarterbacks in the drafts. Whether you want to go to Patrick Mahomes or you want to go Josh Allen the next year, or Lamar Jackson. So if they'll be able to get a quarterback, and I do think too they have the ammo to trade up now if they want to. If they do say, hey, Fernando Mendoza is the guy we want, it looks like a team that looks like Tennessee's gonna be the number one pick, right?
Yep.
I think we could probably all agree that's probably gonna be the case. So Tennessee doesn't need a quarterback, so that's gonna be there for the taking, to see who trades up. The Browns have a couple of first round picks too, so they might be in the mix depending on how they feel about Shador Sanders at the end of the season. But I just I wouldn't panic about the winning games down the stretch.
Yeah, look, I think people in Frankie's camp are panicked and are understandably like frustrated that the Jets are not going to end up with a top pick again this year because of late season wins. But I think also this goes to the part what Kaz was saying, Frankie. This is Aaron Glenn's first year. He needs to prove he can win football games. He needs to prove that he can build. Go ahead, Kaz.
I think it's different than like Adam Gase being the Rams and the Browns.
Yes.
In 2020.
Yeah,
like Adam
yeah.
Gase was a dead man walking at that point. So it was like, oh my God, like what are they doing? That, or Ulbrich winning in Miami at the end of last year when you knew he wasn't winning in here against Miami last year. So I do think there's a difference if the coach is not coming back. Like, yeah, Aaron Glenn is just in his first year. So I do think, and there's been so much losing here, and there's so much like woe is me in that locker room, that I think getting rid of some of that is part of Aaron Glenn's mission here, and winning games will help that.
I completely agree with you, Kaz. And look, Frankie, like they're under the evaluation process, like we talked about a bunch, how they're trying to evaluate this roster. The fact that they're able to pull out that win yesterday with players that are young, meaning on that offensive line, going on that drive to win the game. Meanwhile, the false start was like mind-numbingly bad. They still were able to pull out the win yesterday. Special teams wise, you might have found a true gem in Chris Banjo or Bano. How do you say his name, Kaz, the special teams coordinator?
Banjo, like the instrument.
Banjo. I mean, they might have found a real rock star as a special teams coach in him, and he's young. And the fact that the special teams has looked this good in the return game and in the punt game with Austin McNamara, I mean, there's real positives, I think, to take out of yesterday's game. While you say it was a crappy victory, I would say, you know what? The Jets might have found out some more things about this team, that they have maybe a real wide receiver in Adonai Mitchell if he can consistently put it together. And that's my next question, Kaz, is your impressions of Adonai Mitchell yesterday and what he was able to do with Tyrod Taylor.
Yeah, I mean, I think that was huge because you can see the talent the guy has, right? Like we've seen it. He's been open. The play in New England where whether you want to say that was a drop or Fields didn't really put the ball on him where he should have. And then in Baltimore, he was open and Tyrod got hit as he threw the ball, and that might have been a touchdown. So we've seen the separation that he's had, and like you can see why the guy was a second round pick. You see why he played at the University of Georgia and Texas. Like the talent is there. Something's clearly missing, and that's why the Colts were willing to put him in the trade. But can a change of scenery change that? And I thought it was a huge development for them yesterday that he obviously has the big splash play, which was big, but he also had 2 catches for 15 yards on that last drive, and so that shows a kind of level of trust in him. They targeted him 12 times. I think he's probably a guy who needs some loving up after what happened in Indianapolis, and the Jets are showing they believe in him. They went out and got him. Glenn was emphatic after the game. He was not a throw-in. Like, this was a guy we wanted. And then they go out and make him a focal point of the offense yesterday. So maybe they can get something out of him. And, maybe he could be a guy who contributes next year and beyond.
Frankie, what do you think about Adonai Mitchell?
Man, I think he's a great compliment for when Garrett Wilson does get back here. I think he's a great compliment to Garrett Wilson. I actually think Adonai Mitchell reminds me a little bit of like what was Lazard supposed to be here, hypothetically, in like a dream world. That downfield threat, big body hands, able to get across the middle a little bit, not an underneath guy, but somebody to stretch the field a little bit, give you a little bit more of a catch radius on the outside. And man, that's what this kid is, man. This kid's impressive. He really is. I know he had a little bit of the drops. He's at his school out of Texas, but like Kaz said, there's a reason he was a second-round pick. I really like this kid, and I like him developing there with John Mechie. I think them both kind of playing together and being there, both trying to work their way onto being comparable starters in the NFL. I think they can sort of both help each other out. And I think the offense sort of suits them. Once Garrett gets back, I think they'll have their looks. The passing offense has been really impressive for what we have out there the last couple of weeks, honestly. And it'll just get better. So,
yeah, look, and I thought yesterday the fact that it was a cold weather game, the weather wasn't great, was impressive that Adonai was able to catch some of the balls he did. John Mechie's drop there was pretty huge, I thought. After the huge Williams return, you're like, oh, get the first down to get the touchdown. That was a little bit of a killer. But I think one thing to bring into context, fellas, about these wins that the Jets are piecing together, 3 out of the last 5, all 3 wins have come against backup quarterbacks, right? So no one's going to go home and say, hey, look, you only beat backup quarterbacks. A win is a win, right, in this league. But there is some context there. Kaz, on the defensive side of the ball, did you feel like the Jets maybe got away with yesterday's game and how they performed? I mean, Bijan Robinson was pretty special yesterday in how he played.
Yeah. Yeah, Bijan killed them. I mean, look, the second half was really bad defensively. They were, just getting gashed. But look, they did come up with the stops at the end of the game. And Frankie's right. There was a couple plays there the Falcons just didn't make for Kirk Cousins. I think it was Sills dropped the ball at the 50-yard line where he's got to catch that ball. And so, but that happened. So they came up with the 2 stops at the end of the game when I didn't think they were going to. I thought when the Falcons got the ball back, like, here we go. They're going to march down the field. And yeah, Kirk Cousins is a backup quarterback right now, but Kirk Cousins is an NFL quarterback. Like, I don't look at him in the same way as I look at Dylan Gabriel, who's a question mark. So, the defense, I think the perplexing part of the defense was anyone with a brain knew that Bijan Robinson was going to get the ball a ton, and the Jets didn't seem to have any plan to stop him. And then Kyle Pitts was the other guy, right? Because Drake London's out, so Kyle Pitts, the other guy you have to stop, and they weren't really able to stop Kyle Pitts. He had a great day. So that's concerning when you see, like, it's almost like the anti-Belichick, right? Belichick takes away the best guy on your team. The Jets seem to, like, be like, all right, we'll let Bijan and Pitts have their way, and, we'll shut down Mooney. But so it was, yeah, it was not a good day defensively. But it's always good when you have a bad day defensively and you escape with a win.
But they got that key stop, right, Frankie?
Yeah, they did, but I don't know if that's their doing with that key stop necessarily. You know what? I will say, though, throughout the game, Bijan was lighting us up a bit, but he didn't have one long run, really, where it sort of
26-yard run. What are you talking about?
He had the catch, the 40-yard.
Pass.
Yeah, but they still.
Catch,
but what I'm saying is, on the ground, I was waiting for that 70-yard backbreaker kind of run or 60-yarder. He didn't have that, really. I'm just saying.
That's a low bar you're setting there, Frankie.
70 yards?
It is. I'm trying to be a little positive here.
He ran for 26 on the second quarter for forgive me.
But Ryan,
they were down 7-0 and he break. But hang on, Frankie. He breaks off a 26-yard run with 13 minutes left in the second quarter, and they were down 7-0. Helped set up the next drive for them. I mean, I don't understand. Like, he had broken off a long run.
I mean, long for Bijan, though, I'm telling you, is like these 40, 50-yard runs that end in 6. I'm saying they did pursue to him, and they did bring him down in the open field a few times. I'm just trying to say, I'm not saying they did a good job against Bijan. I'm not. But one of those runs going 6, the game is completely going their way. Like, they're winning that game. Because a couple of those drives ended in field goal attempts. They missed a field goal, Atlanta. So like, you catch up a little bit there points wise.
All right, I hear you on
So
that.
yeah.
Well, I'll say
Yeah,
this.
it's just yeah.
Yeah, look, they weren't good defensively, the Jets yesterday.
No, they were not. No, I'm not. But you'll admit this, guys. There's a lack of talent on that defense, and you clearly saw that yesterday. Like we need help there.
They
Yeah.
traded Sauce.
Yeah,
They
I mean,
traded Quinn.
I think this
Yeah.
offseason the defense has become a huge focus more than I can remember. Like it's been
Yeah.
probably since like 2022 when they really, started building that defense up under Saleh. Like they've really got some work to do at every level of this defense this offseason.
Good thing they
Yeah.
got all those picks that they're going to be trading away for a quarterback. I'll finish up this. I do want Frankie to finish up this conversation about the tank versus winning games because I feel like there's something more here he would like to say. What I'll say this is, Frankie, while we may have watered down your original argument of the tank versus winning games, there is something to say about not having one of those top 3, top 5 picks when you win these games late in the season because they really don't carry over into the next year in terms of you're starting 0-0. Like, while last year getting those wins at the end of the year may have seemed great at the time, they still have to find that quarterback no matter what this offseason.
Yeah, definitely. And I just want to say this. When I brought up that Mendoza point, I'm hypothesizing and giving my opinion on it. I'm not saying that Kaz, I'm not saying I like know anything about it. I'm saying I think if I were to guess a quarterback that they would be zoomed in on, it'd be him. I just think he fits. But in recent years, it seems like having a pick in the top 5 or 6 can dish you out a good quarterback. You look even yesterday, Bryce Young had a big day, first overall pick. CJ Stroud's played pretty well. Jaden Daniels was second pick. Drake May third. Now, there's examples of that not the case. There's examples of Josh Allen's and Patrick Mahomes' too. I don't trust this class enough necessarily where I'd want to get the second or third quarterback off the board if it's not Mendoza and feel like it would be worth it here. I also think that if they do that this year, I don't know if they're going to go into next year's draft and also potentially want to take a quarterback, assuming that class looks better than this class, which isn't saying much. I think sometimes you have to roll the dice with QB classes and hope that it's better. You're not going to know. People can speculate all they want, but I don't think it could be as worse, as bad as this class is. So, but with that said, we'll see. I'll say this: if the quarterback's not there, guys, if they like, let's say Mendoza or Dante Moore, Mendoza and Simpson, let's say they're off the board. I doubt all 3 will, but let's just say, or maybe 2 are and they don't like Simpson. I wouldn't draft a quarterback. I don't think they have to. Look at other areas. You could draft Carnell Tate. You can draft a defensive player, Caleb Downs, maybe. I know it's high, but I don't know. There's other avenues here. I'm just saying the Fernando Mendoza avenue for me, I'm not taking that road, I don't think, anymore, unless he falls to us. I don't think he's good enough that you want to trade up for him. But I also would like him on the Jets. I think he would fit what Tanner wants to do. So I'm in like a weird spot here where I really like the kid for us, but I don't like the kid enough where I'd be willing to give up another first round pick. And I'm like, oh, did we really, we almost didn't have to play this game. We could have just taken him with the 4th pick, 3rd pick, and everything's good. Keep your picks, but it is what it is. They're not going to tank on purpose. A guard's not going to miss a block because I want or people want Mendoza. Like, that's not reality. So it is what it is.
I think you're feeling this way mixed, and this is where I'll swing it back to Kaz. Frankie feels the way he does, Kaz, because the Jets have won 3 out of the last 5, and the schedule upcoming, there are some more winnable games now, which is something I thought I would never say, considering how well they've played over these last couple of games. They got the Dolphins at home. They're at Jacksonville, the Jaguars. They're at the New Orleans Saints, who are fighting for one of those top picks as well. Then they're home against the Patriots, and they're at the Bills. So could you virtually see them winning 2 to 3 more games, Kaz?
Yeah, I think, when did we do that exercise?
We did it when the Jets
were 0-7?
When they were 0-7, right before the Bengals game.
I think I picked 5.
Yeah.
You did pick 5.
Yeah, and I think it's been the ones I said, right, so far, Cincinnati, Cleveland, and this and that. I think Miami and New Orleans are there for the taking as well. And so I think I still go, I think they go 2 and 3 down the stretch here. and end up 5-12.
Hmm.
They weren't as bad as people made them out to be early in the season. There were some close losses, some weird losses, and the schedule eased up. And so that's what it is. They're playing teams in their weight class now, and they're getting some home games. So I think 5-12 is not out of reach.
When that ultimately ends up happening, if it happens, I guess that puts the Jets somewhere in that 5 to 10 range to ultimately be in the draft.
Yeah, I mean last year they were 5-12 and they picked seventh, right? So
Yep.
yeah, that's you're in that range. Yeah, I think there's certainly they're going to be a top 10 pick no matter what. I think now the question is, are they a top 5 pick? And number one is gone. That's history. So yeah, well, we'll see. Some of these teams are like the Dolphins seem to have turned around and looked at them closely, but just reading what people are saying, they turned around offensively. They're running the ball more. They seem to have something going right now. So that game might not be as winnable as I thought it was a few weeks ago.
Well, listen, Frankie, if they do end up with 5 wins, that will put them, like Kaz said, in a 5 to 10 range. Would you feel comfortable with the Jets ultimately ending up there in the 5 to 10 range at the end of this year?
I think it'll be closer to 10. It's not something I'd be happy about considering we started 0-7. But it is what it is. I'd be fine with it, but I would steer away from trading up to get a quarterback. Draft eighth if you're 5-12 and take the best player available, honestly.
Ryan, here's the thing I'd say about waiting until 2027 on a quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
Very risky business for the head coach and the GM because you don't think they're going to be good next year, right?
No.
Like they're going to have to get like a bridge quarterback. They're not going to be good. So now you're going into year 3 and you've had 2 bad seasons already. The playoff streak is now at, help me count, 16 years, right? The playoff drought. So now you're facing that, a lot of pressure, and you take a quarterback. He might end up being a really good quarterback, but most of them don't play tremendously as rookies. Jaden Daniels obviously did. There's others that have, but like ask Brian Dable about drafting a quarterback, when you're on the hot seat. That's risky. There's so many of these quarterbacks have been drafted and their coach gets fired either in the middle of the first season or after the first season. It's crazy. Like there's this notion that might buy you time. I think it's really the opposite. I think that the seat just gets hotter and hotter and hotter. So if you take it next year, you sort of get that year done. If they don't like any of the quarterbacks, I'm with you. But like I don't. I think they
Well,
they
you
got
can't
to
force
be.
the pick, right, Kaz? You can't force the
Can't
quarterback
force the
pick.
pick, but I think if you feel like okay, you know, I like this guy. I don't love him. I think you might take him.
That's a dangerous proposition because that'll get you fired too. If he doesn't work out and
It will.
if you took a quarterback that didn't
It
end up
will.
being good and you didn't love him, that's where it's the begs the question of, are they going to go after a veteran quarterback, a real veteran quarterback in the offseason? I just don't know who that is.
Like who?
That's what I'm saying. I don't know who that is.
Who?
Like if you're telling me Kyler
Yeah.
Murray, I'm telling you hell to the no. No. And if you tell me it's Trevor Lawrence, I'll tell you get lost. No way. The
Yeah.
contracts those guys
Yeah.
have and the amount of draft capital you'd have to give up to get those guys, no way. It doesn't make sense to me. So that's why, again, they're in this really tough bind that Frankie is trying to point out, and I'm trying to play the middleman here between you both is, look, you either pro tank and you want to go as high as a pick as possible because you're putting yourself in a position of no matter what, we can take a quarterback we most likely like or we value as number one there. But if we win these games at the end of the year, we're really putting ourselves in that position of where are you? You're in no man's land. You can't take a rookie quarterback, and you also can't go trade for a veteran quarterback because you don't want to take on one of those crappy contracts.
I would argue, Ryan, that they traded away 2 players at the deadline to make sure that they weren't in no man's land.
Okay.
So that if they are drafting 7th and they are in love with Fernando Mendoza, they flip, some of these 5 first-round picks. They flip some of them to Tennessee and move up and get the guy. That's why you've got the 5 picks. Like,
all right,
they're not going to take 5 players with those draft picks. It ain't going to happen. They're gonna use them to get something, whether it's a veteran quarterback or to move up in the draft. They're going to use them to get something. So
And something Kyle said too.
Go ahead,
Well, no, I was just going to say something you said that is true. Ryan, like I may want to wait till 2027. I don't think they have that much time, given that if they do wait till 2027, if a rookie does come in, that's another year. Then
That's
you're
what
talking
Kaz
about
was
28.
saying. Yeah,
Sorry to cut you off.
no,
Yeah.
that's what Kaz was saying about the taking the quarterback next year or the 2027.
Yeah.
But I think that's a dangerous proposition also. Like if you're loading all in on a Fernando Mendoza who might not be that good. And like because you loved him in this draft class and he's the only quarterback you love and you say, "Hey, we're convinced this is our guy." If he doesn't look good and you traded all those assets, you're going to get fired there too. That's what's funny about all this. Like it all comes down to the quarterback and how you nail that selection. Fellas, that's the gang's all here. I appreciate both of you coming on here and discussing the victory yesterday, the tank versus no tank. And I'm sure we're going to have more discussion as we go forward here the rest of the season as they got some winnable games coming up here. But as always, if you're a fan of this Jets podcast, hit that like, hit that subscribe button on the New York Post Sports YouTube channel. You can follow Brian Costello's coverage all week long as he's at Jets camp all week long, making sure Aaron Glenn, keeping him in check, because Aaron Glenn gets asked about, Breece Hall, he played the most snaps this week. What's that about? Well, you guys told me he didn't, that's something Kaz and I discussed last week about Breece Hall's usage, and it seems like Aaron Glenn might.
Something I asked him last week, so I think I deserve credit.
That's what I'm saying.
I planted the seed. I think I might have planted the seed there.
But he wants to block out the outside noise, Kaz, though. That's the funny part about all this.
He does.
Guys,
He
I
does.
appreciate you,
Yes.
and we'll catch you next time, all right?